Hey, what's going on, everyone? Big Data Beer Team's back. Brett Roberts here. I'm with Thomas Henson. Some pretty cool tech news going on this week. We want to talk about Databricks getting their Series A or Series E funding. E echoes. So what's that? A, B, C, D, E. Fifth round of funding.
Yeah.
$250 million at a $2.75 billion valuation. That's the news. That's pretty big. I mean, there's more and more companies that are hitting the B market valuation every day in this space. So let's talk about it. Thomas, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I thought it was pretty big news. So like I do an internal for work. I do like a weekly newsletter, and that was one of the topics that I sent out. So I was really kind of digging into it, and it surprised me because like honestly, I've been a part of the Hadoop community for a while. And, I knew about Databricks from just, hey, they're really big contributors in Spark, and they kind of run,
run that
platform. Right? Yeah. I mean, and they still run that ecosystem, even though it's open source, right? So like they open sourced it and they kind of maintain that. And I knew they had a platform on top of it. I didn't realize how big it was. And honestly, like I hadn't even dug into their platform. I just started looking into them from a certification perspective, because like a lot of people were talking, and some of the people that I've talked about, and talked to that are doing Spark, that was one of the recommendations is like, hey, go through the Databricks certifications. But man, I haven't even used their platform, but just like some of the things that hit me is they have over 2,000 customers, and their revenue, I think their revenue was over 100 million. Like, so they're still private. They don't have to say that, but I mean, over 100 million. That's
100
crazy.
million annualized reoccurring revenue, which is different than just revenue, which is big though. Because to your point, I've heard of them. We've all heard of them.
Yeah.
I never knew that they were this big. I just thought, okay, another platform, because it's the platform of the week at this point. I was thinking about this today. Everybody has a platform nowadays, but apparently this is a pretty big platform. It's a pretty cool platform. This news kind of made me think about getting into them a little bit more as well, and it's actually called their unified analytics platform.
So you hadn't looked at it either?
Not a whole lot. I've heard of them. I've been on the website. I kind of understand what they do, but in this day and age, right, with more and more organizations embracing or needing to embrace advanced analytics, data science, machine learning, right, all the buzzwords of the day, what Databricks does is it kind of creates a simplified way of creating a data pipeline. So anything from, data cleaning, data collection, all the way to model building, it kind of simplifies for you, which is important nowadays. So
yeah, I mean, and it's crazy to me, just the fact that, like I said, for people that are looking for a platform, they're able to go back to the people who actually founded and, create and maintain Spark. So there's always initiatives there, but, sometimes, that doesn't always kind of maintain and keep you going. Just look at, I think the last time you and I chat was some more breaking news was about the Hortonworks and Cloudera merger.
Yeah,
so apparently we just get together for those, but
the merger hour, right?
Yeah. So, but if you think about it from that perspective, like that'll only hold you for so long, right? And you have to innovate. So it's pretty cool. I got some notes here, man. One of the things that I was going to check out, so a big part of that was funding came from like Microsoft and Azure, and so like I've been looking.
Thunder.
Oh yeah, I've been digging a little bit into the Azure platform and kind of looking at what they have from that perspective. So it's very interesting where you've got Cloudera and Hortonworks. We've talked a little bit about them and their merger, and if you look at any of their business plans or any of their goals, it's like, hey, we want to be more cloud native. We want to push to the cloud, and you kind of see Databricks doing that too. With hey, Azure's kind of all in. We want to have that platform here. So just really interesting to see, kind of where, hey, we want to be able to be everywhere, whether it's on-prem, whether it's in the cloud. And just, I mean, heck, not only are we going to have, and make it Databricks and make our platform available in Azure, we're actually going to get funding from them to be able to do it.
Yeah. And I mean, again, everything you said caught my eye as well. What interests me is Databricks is one of the few, I think it's like called first person or first company builders on Azure. So especially in the data analytics space, there's not a whole lot of them. So the fact that they almost have, I don't want to say first mover advantage, but they've been, very woven into the Azure ecosystem already. But what interests me is now that Microsoft is an actual investor in Databricks, how is this going to affect a cloud agnostic strategy that most of these platforms have nowadays? Do you think that it's going to take away from development on AWS or Google Cloud? Or do you think they're going to I guess, are they going to have to be beholden to Microsoft, or are they going to be able to continue their, cloud of choice strategy?
No, it's got to be cloud of choice, right? I mean, you look at investments and the way that investments go in. I mean, I bet you if you dug around in there somewhere, AWS may be invested, right? Like it's not, you know what I'm saying? Microsoft has so many different bets, right? I mean, they just bought GitHub too. We didn't release them, break that news here. We should have. But anyway, I mean, if you look at, the way that these investments are, and you and I both work for the same company, and we've seen that even within our company with the way that they invest in seed fundings and some of the valuations and other technology. So I think, you get a seat at the board and you get some things, but I think they're going to go where their users are. Now, that's the big question is, kind of where's this going to be and what platform, are the more of the enterprise users on Azure versus AWS? That's what we've heard. That's what we've seen. And just in my experience, that's kind of the way that I see it. But there's no reason they wouldn't. I mean, AWS still has such a huge lead that there's no way that Databricks would not be able to still continue to pour their investment there. So I think and then from Microsoft's perspective too, like, they're still going to be invested in other platforms. So like one of the first things that I started spinning up and using in Azure a few years back was like Hortonworks would have their sandbox. So you could like just, essentially instead of, downloading your, a VM and running it on your local machine, you could just, pretty much spin up their sandbox in Azure. And so, there's still going to be different platforms and everything that, Microsoft is going to encourage there, because it's more about, hey, we have our cloud and we want people to bring their apps, right? And the same thing, so who has the best, kind of like, the iPhone versus Android is kind of the way I look at it.
Yeah. I mean, you become irrelevant very quickly when you place all your bets on one horse, right? Especially in this cloud space or any of these spaces where there's fierce competition. So I feel like, to your point, absolutely agree. This isn't going to change anything for Databricks. It's only, Microsoft is going to be more of a contributor and be able to invest more into them. And maybe there's some more efficiencies with Azure. Who knows? But I'm pretty excited about it. You mentioned earlier that you started looking some training, some certifications. I know you're a big fan of certs. I like certs. They're great in this industry. I'm more of a fan of finding these companies that are growing and are becoming more woven into the fabric and getting certifications before anyone else. So, first mover advantage again. What did you find about training?
Yeah, so they do some on-site. I haven't done a ton. Like it's kind of in my plan to kind of look at more towards the middle half of the year. I'm working on some stuff right now, but I did go through and start looking at, and I think I'm going to shoot some videos around just like, hey, I had some questions come in and some people asking me like, hey, man, we're talking about the Databricks acquisition, or not acquisition. I'm sorry, the evaluation. Like, how can I get started? Like some of the same people. So I get Q&A all the time. And so I've kind of looked into just being able to spin it up. And so you can do a 14-day trial, but I'll have to pin that question and kind of follow back up. But they do have some certifications and some things that you can go through. And they, I think they have like on-site training. So like the company I was talking about where the person who was over, she was over all the data engineers and data scientists in that organization. Yep. She told me that that's what she did. Part of her onboarding was, hey, the first week or two you're at the company, and then they ship you out to I think it was Santa Clara to do some kind of on-site training and going through their certification. So definitely, I would be moving towards that if you're a data engineer and more on the developer side. But I don't know. So are you getting the cert? Is that what you're saying?
I mean, we'll find out. Let's see how hard it really is. But I will say that in the data engineering space, this seems like a pretty cool technology to embrace and to be a subject matter expert in, because it does span the entire data pipeline. It makes you relevant.
Yeah, and it gives you an opportunity too. So, like, if you go with Hortonworks, or you go with Cloudera, or even if you go with AWS's cert or Azure cert, Spark is the interwoven tool in those two. So that crosses over. So that that's kind of my thing. Is like, hey, if you don't know where to go, and for people who are, hey, I want to get into data engineering, but I don't I don't know if I'm going to be applying for a place that's using Azure or AWS or Cloudera or Hortonworks, or kind of build their own. If you have that Spark baseline training, you're mobile either way. Versus if you went strictly AWS and you focus more on EMR and like Kinesis and those specific AWS tools, then that's great as long as you're looking for a role where AWS skills, or you say the same thing about Azure or Cloudera too.
Yeah, no, it makes sense. Well, I think it's been a good tech talk. Let us know what you think about Databricks. Let us know what you think the future might be with this new round of investing. And if you do take any of the training or have taken it, let us know how it was.
Thomas,
yeah, it's always
send
a pleasure.
The answers.
Yeah,
no, just kidding. Don't do that. No, it probably breaks some rules.
Don't do that. Yeah, you just ruined everything, man. Now you have to take the test twice. No, Thomas, always a pleasure chatting with you, and I'll see you for the next merger, the next time some company gets a lot of money for being awesome.
Should be in the next week or so.
Yeah, next week. All right. See ya.